My first decision as a child at the age of 11 was to become a magician. My second decision at the age of 12 was to become a short story writer as a result of meeting another magician, Mr. Electrico, who pointed at me on a night when he sat in his electric chair and touched me with his sword of fire. All this blue electricity coming down through his arm and hand, out the sword, touching me on the nose, and he said, "Live forever." And it was that week I decided to live forever by becoming a writer. I was very fortunate in having a maniac mother who couldn't stay away from motion pictures when I was a child. So every chance she had, especially when I was 2, 3, and 4 years old, she'd creep off to the local movies and introduce me to those fabulous monsters, people like Lon Chaney and Hunchback of Notre Dame, Lon Chaney in Phantom of the Opera. So by the time I was 7 or 8 years old, I was dressing myself up in my grandma's opera cape, putting fangs in my mouth and hanging upside down in trees and dropping on people. This is my office, my basement in the sky, my annex to my junkyard at home. This is where I come to hide away from telephones and people. People are afraid to come here because we had an earthquake several years ago. I couldn't get into the office. Everything had collapsed, everything had fallen over. Cleaning people refused to come in because there's so much on the floor, my filing system, that it's impossible to do anything about cleaning. They flee the place. When I was a boy, I loved to go out and look at the stars. And when I wasn't looking at the stars, I was busy running through the town wearing my special pair of Lightfoot tennis shoes on my way to somewhere. As I grew older, I looked at the stars more and more, wrote about rocket ships, but I never forgot the shoes. And when I had characters with problems, I would say to them, in effect, put on your tennis shoes and run toward the thing that you want with all your heart. I will follow you. I will write your story. When people ask me where I get my ideas, I laugh. We're all so busy looking out to find ways and means, we forget to look in. Death, violence, fantasy, not good for children, nonsense. I've always believed that we should act out our fantasies, put them in stories, put them in films, so we can make do with them, so we don't have to go act them in real life. After all, isn't it true that most of us at one time or another has wanted to kill one of our parents or one of our teachers? A film like Dracula, for me, gives me a chance and others a chance to act out our fears about death. And when we've scared ourselves for an hour, Van Helsing hands us a cedar stake. We put it to Dracula's chest and vam, 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 we kill death, don't we?
Hands up or we'll shoot. Your name?
Ray Bradbury.
Speak up.
Ray Bradbury.
What are you doing now?
Walking?
Walking. Walking, just walking? Walking?
Yes, sir.
Walking where? For what?
To breathe the air, to see things,
You done this often?
every night for years. When I was a young man, I looked at the shelves at the library, saw the empty places, and said to myself, how do I get there? How do I put myself on that shelf? The answer was to write a book that would scare the hell out of myself. We all love that. To write books about boys sneaking around at midnight, doing secret things out in the backyard, climbing trees, going into haunted houses, that sort of wonderful adventure. If I could write that, maybe I'd wind up on the shelf. I got the title for my novel from Shakespeare's play, Macbeth. By the pricking of my thumbs, something wicked this way comes. This is one of my favorite books, mainly because I found my father by surprise in it a few years ago. My father died some 23 years back. I wrote the book 20 years ago, published it 18 years ago, didn't read it for many years after. One night about 8 or 9 years ago, prowling around my house late, picked up the book, read a whole chapter about this man, this father in the book, and burst into tears. It was my father, hidden away at the heart of the book, very special, very loving, very good. And that's why it's my favorite book. Me, said his father, I'm the original sad man. I read a book and it makes me sad. See a film, sad. Plays, they really work me over. Is there anything, said Will, doesn't make you sad? One thing, death. Boy, Will started. I should think that would. No, said the man with a voice to match his hair. Death makes everything else sad, but death itself only scares. If there wasn't death, well, all the other things wouldn't get tainted. And Will thought, here comes the carnival. Death like a rattle in one hand, life like candy in the other. Shake one to scare you, offer one to make your mouth water. Here comes a sideshow, both hands full. The days being short now, simply I had come to gaze and look and stare upon the thought of that once endless maze of afternoons. But most of all, I wished to find the places where I ran as dogs do run before or after boys. I think one of the basic secrets of life is doing things because you want to do them and not because someone pays you. And that's been true for me. I've been writing poetry for 40 years or so that nobody wanted to read, even myself at times. I came upon an oak where once when I was 12 I had climbed up and screamed for Skip to get me down. It was 1,000 miles to earth. I shut my eyes and yelled. Help! My brother, richly compelled to mirth, gave shouts of laughter and scaled up to rescue me. What were you doing there? He said. I did not tell, but I was there to place a note within a squirrel nest on which I had written some old secret thing now long forgot. Now, in the green ravine of middle years, I stood beneath that tree. Why, I thought, my God, it's not so high. Why did I shriek? What awe! The squirrel's whole and long lost nest were there. I lay upon the limb a long while thinking. I drank in all the leaves and clouds and weathers going by as mindless as the days. What if, I thought. But no, some 40 years beyond. The note I'd put, it's surely stolen off by now. I put my hand into the nest. I dug my fingers deep, nothing, and still more nothing. Yet digging further, I brought forth the note. Like moth wings neatly powdered on themselves and folded close, it had survived. I opened it, for now I had to know. I opened it and wept. I clung then to the tree and let the tears flow out and down my chin. Dear boy, strange child who must have known the years and reckoned time and smelled sweet death from flowers in the far churchyard. What did it say that made me weep?
I remember you.
I remember you. I remember you. People are always saying, what are you? Are you a science fiction writer? Are you a fantasy writer? I say, no. I am what I started out to be, a magician.